everybody, welcome back, happy Monday, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host Anne, and disembodied hands Justin, Quindy, and maybe John, although I'm not sure. John's been kind of incognito lately, at least with his hands, you know, but how's it going? Oh yay, shipment notification, and it's only a paltry 56 pounds of plastic. Gross. What are you nervous about? Do you have an extra room cleared out? Don't be the living dead. Unless you're like Dead Can Dance or something like that, you know. Hello. Love to you too, Quindy. Got your name right. Haha, it's not one of those days. Yo, Coobs. Alright. I guess I should get on some metallics, huh? Got all this crap sitting around here. I need to resort and clean up. Know that feeling? I keep my metallics in a little exiled bag. That's how little I use them. Well, that's typical business day. If I ever heard it, Nomad Zeke, you know. Meeting that could have been an email. Totally. Let's see here. I need my old bronze. Probably need my old bronze more than I need my scorched metal. I think I'm going to play around a little bit with that. I was going to go orangier, and then I remembered we're going orangey with the heat, and we're going probably verdigris with the metal, so that means I'm sliding. I was thinking about using more of a traditional yellowy gold for the bronze, and then I realized I might not want to do that. Although I think I'm going to keep antique gold in the mix. We'll see. I've got ancient bronze. That might be actually a better hit. I'm just kind of sorting through thinking because I need to keep my options open here. And just like with regular paint, when you're working with metallics, the more pigment you have in those metallics, the fewer options you've got for tweaking them. So as far as mixing paint into them. So I'm keeping a couple of things open since we haven't worked out strictly what we're doing with our metallics. I could go greenish with them. I could go warm with them and do greenish verdigris. Haven't decided yet, but I've gotten a few different colors out so that I've got some options. Hi, Ancient Marvel. Hello, thanks for the resub with Prime. 14th month streak and 21 months total freestyle. Look at you. Super fantastic. So yeah, so I've got kind of old school metallics here actually. Now that I'm looking at them, I'm not using any bones for these. Just interesting. We'll see how it goes. So possible colors to play with are these. Old bronze being our most greenish color. We do have an ancient bronze. That's more of a reddish bronze. The new gold is only here so I can mix it with other things. New gold is a really versatile. It's not a metal medium, but it may as well be. The only pigment colors in it are pigment colors that match the flake. So you can use it like a gold metal medium in as far as mixing your own metals. The only thing it's going to fight you on really is if you're trying to get like bright, like shifting colors, because the ochre in it will fight against like you turning it into a bright orange or something like that. So. But yeah, and then I've got tarnished brass out. Tarnished brass is kind of, although I named it brass, it can also be a tarnished bronze or a dark gold, depending. When people want a more neutral metallic gold, I usually point them at tarnished brass. And then we've got, yeah, antique gold, which I doubt I'm going to use. And then, of course, we have pearl white. Always have pearl white out. If you're working with metallics, you want them to be highlighted. Use a metallic to highlight them. I am missing pretty much all of the Olympics. Yeah, ancient bronze was one of the colors that I kind of stole off an old GW line that I liked. I mean, it's a red bronze. So if you want a reddish bronze, a more coppery bronze of sorts, it's a very pretty metallic color. There. It's kind of like a dark reddish gold. So I do like that color. It's technically a shadow in its triad, which its highlight is this, but that's not necessarily... With metallics and triads, you don't really have to use them that way. It's up to you guys. But anyway, we haven't really figured out what we're going to do. So what we're starting with is our heat effect today. We're going to work outward, and when we hit these metal areas, we're going to play around with that and see how I'm liking it. I kind of feel like I need to do maybe some... We'll see. I don't want to do heat discoloration on the bronze because that's going to make it all rainbow. I want to imply that the bronze itself is magically strong enough and shielded from the heat. So... Alrighty, let's get... Although, for the record, Kirill says that Reaper Metallics are perfect for doing that heat shift rainbow effect. Because we've got a rainbow of metallics. Hey, Jazzy, sup? Yeah, I mean, I usually do, but David and I just aren't. Oh, does the Google have a doodle? Every once in a while, it's funny because being out here in the same town that Google is based in is like, you know, you meet Googlers and it's like, I really like your doodle today. And they're like, oh yeah, some other department, you know, 50,000 people away from me does that. Neural, thank you. 21 months. Dang, you like us. We like you too. Yeah, I don't know. I like Winter Olympics are more my speed because I love downhill skiing and ice skating and ski jumping and all that kind of thing. And so it's like for the Summer Olympics, although I like diving and stuff like that. But I don't know. We had it on. We were watching like the first day. But they skip back and forth because there are so many different events going on, and I had problems like just like focusing on anything in particular that I was watching. So yeah, I don't know. We enjoyed a little bit of it, but there's so many things going on. I kind of like to watch the skateboarding. That'd be fun. Hi, Rascal. All right, I need heat colors. Hot things. We need hot things. Sunrise orange, a tiny bit of magma red, lantern yellow, that's really, and pure white, and that's really all we need. All you need for a good heat effect, guys. And I really technically don't even need the magma, but I want it just in case I want to darken it, this sunrise, just a little bit. Uh-oh, no beeping allowed. Whoever's beeping out there. Dang, city people. Not that my quiet suburb, you know, couldn't get loud when I lived in a quiet suburb. Alrighty. I'm going to put these metallics aside for right now. We're going to work on our heat effect. Then we're going to move into the metallics. Yeah. Yeah, you did, Crowley. 6 days ago. So, not last week at all, but the Friday previous to last week. I'm going to map this in with orange. Let's map it in with yellow first. So when you're doing heat, sometimes you want to start with the lightest and work out to your darkest because you don't actually want a lot of dark. Ah, my lantern yellow decided it was a splooge kind of day. Winter sports is just surviving the winter. Well, I grew up in Wisconsin, so you know, I get it. Maybe that's why. I mean, I'm not a winter person. I don't like cold weather at all. So you'd think I would prefer the summer sports. Actually, I like watching equestrian events because otherwise I don't ever get to see them. But I haven't seen any yet. I probably should take a look at like the Olympics actual programming schedule. And again, haven't had time. Been doing other things. Alright, so we got our Magma Red. Magma Red is like Phoenix Red with except extremely like red and saturated instead of more orange. So Magma doesn't cover quite as well, but it is very brilliant. So remember we want to do green, orange, purple on this sucker, so I am going to go mostly orange with the heat effect. And I'm going to need a fairly fine brush, so we'll start with our DaVinci Maestro Series 10 size 1, and we'll switch to tiny brush if necessary. Uh-oh, my glasses traveled. Yeah, that's because I grabbed them last night. 1 second. Let me get them. I think they're over at my gaming computer. Yes. Cannot paint without seeing the model. This does not work. It is not effective. There's a couple of fires. One of them is like, I think south or north of Lake Tahoe, which I think is the closest to us, but that's still a while. Ah, thank you, Quindy. Ooh, we have a little graphic now when we put up the video. Dang, it's not just a link anymore. We look kind of classy or something. We had fires very near, much more near to us last year, Twisted Oma. We had them right up at Big Basin, which is only like 30 or 40 minutes away from us. Sadly, that's a redwood preserve, and it burned. So they were doing damage assessments, and they said that some of the biggest trees looked like they'd made it through, but because redwoods are fire resistant. But we'll see. Like it was everything else was burnt out though. Everything else was done. Well done. Put a fork in it. I don't know. I mean, I'm not being somebody who has lived in California for the last, long period of time. Over 40 years I have been away from it. I'm not as familiar with all like the fire management stuff and all that. Oh, I see. I see, Quindy. Okay, cool. I just hadn't seen it when you'd previously posted links to our stuff. Oh, but we normally do like, that's right. We normally do YouTube video links. That's why. And this is still a VOD link. Got it. Now I understand. But anyway, it sounds like that part of the reason that fires are bad in California, other than just the climate making everything so dry right now, is just that, like, there hasn't been a lot of, like, controlled burns and undergrowth clearing and all the stuff that could make fighting the fires a little easier. So that means when fires do hit, they're really bad. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they do Fort Warshadow, just because it makes sense. You need to know. And it is fire season. But last year in, I think, August was when that Big Basin fire, and that was just like Santa Cruz Mountains. That's like right over there. Like, we had smoke coming directly down into the valley. Like, we had a couple of days where it was like reddish orange outside. And a lot of days where it was just like you needed... The mask was actually a good thing because it filtered the air. That kind of thing. Alright, so I've thinned all my paint down because I used underpainting, right? So we want these colors to go over the top of our underpainting. Well, you could do it in the winter, like winter-spring maybe, Warshadow, after the main rains have gone through. Because winter is usually the rainy season. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't know the precision about it. All I know is that the, one of the criticisms I hear is just that that's part of why it makes it harder. Ooh, we have a very loud plane out the window. That should at least pass by. All right, I gotta get in focus. Get in focus. It might be a squirrel day today, guys. Might be a squirrel day. It's a good day, but it might be a squirrel day. Squirrel. Yeah, it gets windy near the coast. It doesn't get too windy here. We have days. We have days where, like, I think a front comes through and it's, like, really blustery here in the valley. But, yeah, it's interesting. I never have been... I guess wildfires were a thing in Wisconsin, but not as far south as we were. And when I was in Madison, we're surrounded by water, so we didn't really... see it. Like, you read about it if you went up to the North Woods and stuff like that, but like around my grandparents' farm could be very fire vulnerable. But otherwise, I haven't previously lived in a place that had a lot of fire risk. It's always different wherever you go. Like Texas gets some of the tornadoes. I do need this brown though. I need my walnut so I can kind of play back and forth with this. Oh, nice, Iffy. Yeah, I mean, it always makes me happy but I get happy whenever people say they really enjoy my paints. Like, when they're like, your paints are awesome, and when I started using them, I leveled up, you know, or I love your paints, I've tried other paint lines, but I just really liked Master Series. You know, I love to hear that sort of thing in general. If they also love some of the new colors, then that makes me happy too. But I know that new colors don't always stick around, but as long as the paint line is around, then I feel like I've given a legacy to the painting community that I've been a part of for so many years. But yes, I especially like the Lotus Orange and Leaf Bud Green and the Black Indigo. Those are all like new colors that I really like. I think Black Indigo and Lotus Orange are two of my most favoritist. Although Oxide Brown is incredibly useful. And we may start using it. If we start painting more earthy things, I'll start using it more on stream. It is a color that definitely could become one of my go-tos. Which is why I did it. Alright, I just wanted to make sure these metal bands yeah, I mean, Sadie mixed all the batches of the new colors, and she also adjusted some of the new colors. So some of the colors that came out aren't the same color that I originally mixed. But yeah, I mean, they're all good. They are all good. I just like to if you're going to do a heat effect, it's good to define where your parameters are here. So make sure you've got a nice hard line around things. So I grabbed my walnut and just want to make sure that everything is defined well, and then we'll start rocking it. Yeah, all miniature painting paints, mineral J-Hem, should be thinned. You can paint with Reaper right out of the bottle for a base coat, but any other application, any other skill that you use, from wet blending to trying to, you know, layer colors like I'm about to do, to detail work, to anything else, you want to thin your paint at least a little bit. Usually when I start, these are actually pretty transparent colors, so they look like they're more watery. But usually when I start for a base coat, I'll even do a 4 or 5 drops and then 1 drop of water, because I like the way the paint spreads better if it's not straight out of the bottle. And then after that, if I'm mixing paints to do just anything other than base coating, I usually mix them 2 to 1 paint to water and then go from there. But if you're just starting, then probably the best thing you can do is to like get the Reaper Learn to Paint kit, the number 1 kit. And it is going to start to teach you about different paint consistency, different amounts to thin your paint to get different effects. And that's like, because telling you when you're new to the hobby, saying, oh yeah, you got to thin your paint. The next logical question is, well, for what? How much? And that's a very complicated question, because there are so many techniques that require different levels of thinning to get really good results, right? But what I tell people off the bat is, even if you are just a rank newbie, and if you don't have the Learn to Paint kit, at least thin your paint, like, after you've got that base coat down, thin your paint like maybe 3 to 1, like 3 drops of paint, 1 drop of water, and just see what else you can do. Because as you thin your paint, you're going to be able to do finer lines and have better control also. Although that does also very much depend on having a very good brush. Black Indigo is a regular paint. You don't really need a Black Indigo liner because you have Death Knight Black now in that fast palette coming out. And that is essentially an indigo liner. Yep, War Shadow with the, I have a video on the Reaper YouTube, also, that is called Thinning MSP Paints, and it'll tell you how much to thin, or how much I thin anyway, for various techniques and applications, and that's free. I've go to the Reaper YouTube. Maybe Quindy will get us a link in the chat, but go to the Reaper YouTube and search Thinning MSP Paints. It's a class I did for ReaperCon last year, and it is absolutely free. You can just watch it. And if you go to my Patreon, which is patreon.com/paintingbig, I have a free handout for it on there too. You don't have to be a patron. Alrighty. I am just refining my white a little bit, tightening it up. If you're going to do underpainting, make sure it's at the kind of the level and stage you want before you start putting colors over it for that glow effect. I'll probably come in again with a pure white toward the center here anyway, after I get some of these yellows and oranges down. All right, let's rock it. Hello, Bob and Julie. Hold on, gotta... So Mineral, did that help you? And Tiago, you're funny. Discussing the strange effect of buying Reaper paints, they start conquering the rest of your palette. We are different. You know what that is, Tiago? It's not necessarily that we're better, but we are different. All these years, my mantra has been that although you need thick paint for a base coat, you need good coverage for a base coat, almost everything else we do in miniature painting requires paint to have a certain level of transparency, to move, to thin well, to be able to stay in suspension when it's thinned. And so I went that way with the paint line, like with Ed's Blessing and all the rest of Reaper. I went that way with the Reaper paint. I'm the one who made the paint line. I don't know if you knew that. And I went that way on purpose because I used almost exclusively, I even thinned my base coats. So I use thin paint all the time. And I wanted a paint that was going to thin well and perform extremely well at those tasks. Unlike other lines that aim for coverage first, Master Series doesn't. So once you realize that you can still do the 2 thin coats and get great coverage on Master Series, then you're free to thin it and like get all these other effects as well. And if you're seeing artists you follow who are using more and more MSP, that's probably why, is that it excels at a range of things that other paint lines in general, and I've tried a lot of them, do not, because a lot of other paint lines are going with the mantra coverage first. And in paint chemistry, you cannot have both. You can't have both great coverage out the gate and the ability to thin and be really translucent. They fight each other. They are diametrically opposed. So we're very different. Master Series is different, but versatile. Oh yeah, the bot removes links. Mouser. Yeah, only Quindy, only mods can link. Otherwise we'd constantly be having to mod people for trying to post, inappropriate link stuff. All right, I'm going to start with an orange. And as you can see, although if I were using it full strength, Sunrise Orange is actually like a decent coverage orange. I've thinned it way down, so it's quite transparent. And it's going to look more like a yellow over the top of this. But that's okay. I'm all right with that. I'm going to bring it all the way out to the edges of this area, even though I'll probably go over it with Magma Red way out there at the edges. But for now, and an article on the craft section for so old it's for thinning pro paints. That's funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, hobby stores. Those hobby stores, like, okay, they need to learn to paint. Learn to paint, noob. Tell those people. They haven't, okay, they've kind of misguided you. Probably only because they don't understand, like, painting above a certain level. Dry brushing is great for fast results. And if they're trying to, like, help you get an army on the table, then that's absolutely valid. But even then, you have to thin your paint when you do washes, unless, of course, they're just encouraging you to buy bottled washes. You know, then you don't have to thin your paint. You just use the wash right out of the bottle. So I could see how there are hobby stores, especially if they're trying to do that. They're trying to help you get a force on the table or paint up your board game, right? If you're trying to paint everything in your Gloomhaven game or your whatever, especially with all the miniatures, the awesome miniatures board games out there now, then I can totally see that. I could see that. If you've got pre-bottled washes and they're just teaching you to, you know, base and dry brush, yeah, that's just thick paint. But if you want to get really nice results, like, okay, let's whip out the cool stuff that we've been working on, right, guys? For mineral. So I don't know if you've caught our other streams mineral, but here's one of the other models we've been working on. And she's a half-orc wizard. And her name is Vonsley. So things like this, where you've got fluid in a glass jar, and you've got these blends, really pretty blending on the dress for the red, from the red almost to black. And you've got this kind of, you know, cool, transparent-looking crystal. And then you've got this really fine freehand on her cloak of protection. And even the fake metal effects on the staff. All this stuff is done with thinned paint. And even like her face and, you know, the eyes and all that. All of this stuff you've got to thin your paint. There's no dry brushing on here. It's precision, right? And although some stores might tell you, oh no, just dry brush precision is hard, if you don't ever start to try to hit fine details and to work with thinner paint, you're never going to get better at it. So although I can totally see starting out with the dry brush wash, transition a little bit and learn some of the newer techniques like layering, which is what gives you like these blended effects, and you know, just fine detailing, which is the precision stuff. And your paint jobs are going to look a lot better. Now, what it is going to do is it's going to take you longer. So that's why I think a lot of hobby stores, like I said, they have your best interest at heart. They think you're trying to paint all of your Zombicide game, and if you are, then yeah, maybe you don't want to take 60 zillion ages on your miniatures, right? Yeah, it's just, but it's little steps at a time, mineral. So yes, try thinning your paint and seeing how smoother effects you can get. And, you know, get a brush with a good tip, and you'll find that you can control it better if you have like a little bit smaller brush with a good tip. Usually, if you're not using a really high-end sable, then you'll be able to control the paint a lot better than when it's thick, and do like finer lines and stuff with it. Thanks, Splat. That's because GW is handing you a fish instead of teaching you to fish, Grey Mouser. I mean, Duncan, yes, is correct, of course, the two thin coats. I mean, I've been doing that for ages. And you could thin GW in the old days, and you still can thin the base coat a little bit. But because the base coat is formulated for coverage, as I was just explaining, it does not want to stay in solution very well if you thin it too much. That's just the way it is. Because the resin is very heavy that they use. That's why those base coat paints get good coverage. It's like, there is no like good or bad in paint chemistry for miniatures. There is only what can you do best with it. So you can thin GW. It just won't thin or stay in solution as well as a paint like MSP. And you can get coverage with MSP. It just won't be like out the gate absolute coverage like some other brands. But yeah, so GW wants you to just like, when you need a thin paint, they want you to reach for contrast paint, or they want you to reach for their washes, or they want you to reach for that sort of thing, right? They don't want you to have to mix it yourself. Yeah, I kind of agree with that, Tiago. I kind of feel like they have kind of cut us, like, kind of just shortchanged us. Like, the American, I guess maybe it's not just American, but, like, the hobby movement that just teaches you base coat, dry brush, wash. I feel really shortchanges us as hobbyists here because I think layering is more intuitive. I'm with you. Like, I didn't actually learn. I learned to layer before I learned to dry brush. And the only reason I picked up dry brushing at all, because I hated the texture it leaves, was because it's still a tool and that there might be at some point in my life where I would want that tool. So definitely learning to do it is not a waste of your time. Somebody who dry brushes very well can produce beautiful effects. A lot of historical modelers regularly use dry brushing for things like weathering on mechanical items like tanks. So I'm layering up. Look at this. See how the orange, as you put another layer on, it changes color, it changes depth. Everything is coming up a bit. But notice also what it's doing. It's darkening where my white was, and it's lightening where my dark was. So thanks, Val. We've hardly started, though. We're just starting to do the fiery effects now. I'm going to kind of trial this Magma Red, guys. I'm going to put it out here in on the far edges. Mineral, if you work with bones material, which is our plastic. This is, I don't know if this one is in bones. I suspect it's in bones black. But you can essentially just wash them. There's a lot of different schools of thought on this. Some people will tell you to always prime bones, and some people will tell you to never prime bones. I personally just talk about what works for me. So for me, when I get ready to prep a bones model for this stream, I just fill up a plastic mixing bowl with some really hot water. I put a little bit of dish soap in it, put the models in, swirl them around in there, gets all sudsy, you know, maybe for about 30 seconds. And then I start rinsing them, just adding clean water and pouring it out several times until it runs clean. Then I let them dry overnight on a paper towel. And I find that the paint, at least MSP paints, stick great at that point. Your mileage may vary. Just be aware that like solvent-based primers on this plastic, this bones plastic, tend to off-gas or have other chemical reactions. So be very careful what primers you use if you do use a primer. I just don't have a problem not using one, so I never do. Yeah, and follow, yeah, there we go. Quindy is just linked. Yeah, and go to Rhonda's article there. Also, Mineral, because, or whichever one of you was asking that, sorry. But yeah, Quindy just linked an article. Yeah, it was you, Mineral. That's what I thought. That it's like, first coat is the difference. Rhonda makes a good point too, is that after you've got that first coat of paint down, or the first coat of whatever you're using, everything else is the exact same as if you were working on a metal or a resin miniature. So, but yeah, Rhonda talks, Rhonda's also a staff painter for Reaper. She writes our Learn to Paint kits. She has a great blog, Bird with a Brush, and she has a Patreon as well, also Bird with a Brush. It's all very worth it. She's great at analyzing art techniques and products. She does a fantastic job, and I cannot endorse her more. She's a fantastic person and a great teacher. And if you ask her a question, by gosh, she will analyze it. She will find out. All right, so we've got our orange starting up here. And I also need to get that orange down here. But right now I want to kind of do a proof of concept, as I mentioned. So I'm going to grab my Magma Red, and I'm going to start glazing that. It's also extremely thin, but I'm going to start putting that out here in the shadows. And that's going to give me a much more reddish orange color coming in. And yeah, I could go a lot faster with this, but I want it to look good, so I'm taking my time. There is definitely a point in miniature painting where you can have it like fast and okay or slow and better. And I personally always go for the slow and better. I enjoy painting things to a level that I can look at and really enjoy what I've done. So now one thing we do have to remember is that the thing that's giving us this glow is the white underpainted. And so if I want my orange to go out more, I'm going to have to mix a little bit of white with it if I want that glow effect to stretch further away from the center. And although I used underpainting at first for this, you can also just mix a tiny bit of white with your orange to get it. Really, I like so many models from Greek Odyssey, Valendar. Oh, yes, and Rhonda also has a Twitch show this afternoon at 2 p.m. Central USA time. So yeah, definitely show up and meet Rhonda. She's cool. I endorse Rhonda. She has coolness. What I think I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna pop a little white into my lantern yellow here. I probably should have used candlelight. So lantern and both the orange and the yellow, you can see they're very close in color. And I really need this to get lighter and brighter and hotter as it goes toward the middle. So I'm going to grab my mixing brush and a big bit of white, and I'm going to mix that in here. This is going to shift it lighter. It's going to shift it more intense. It's also going to shift it a little less orange. It's the case with these orangey yellows that when you add white, they tend to go a little bit more toward the median and a little less orangey. So I think that's going to work for me. Now you can see that this is definitely lighter than the orange. Well, right. That's just what I was saying earlier, Nomadzeke. It depends on what you're doing. But if you're dry brushing and washing and you're not happy with how things look, or you wish that you could get your models to look just a little better, it's not hard to spread yourself just that little bit extra and learn layering. I mean, if you learn layering, you have the tool. Layering and glazing, hand in hand, are the tools that can let you do anything in mini painting. Anything in mini painting. At that point, after that, it's just practice and brush control and learning what paint consistency works best for various effects. So I'm going to put some yellow here at the very middle. I want it brighter. I'm going to keep it pretty close to the middle, though. And at the very center, we are going to come all the way up to white. Because I want the heat to be concentrated. It's supposed to be concentrated in his torso. There's supposed to be like a steam boiler or something in there. According to D&D 5th. A magical steam boiler, however. They tried to use, according to D&D 5th history, they attempted to use regular steam, and it didn't work so well until they put in, like, until they learned how to make the boiler, like, magically protected and enhanced and stuff. You know, all these people writing all these monster-like entries are super funny. It's like everybody's got their little chance to world build, right? Like everybody who wrote a monster entry had a chance to like world build just a little bit. So we're bringing this way up now with some white, making it look hotter. See how it looks hotter? I don't know. I just searched online and found an article on it, Valendar. That could have been homebrewed. No, Zigra. This is produced by Reaper Miniatures. It's part of the Bones 5 Kickstarter that just shipped, and it's bronze golem. It is. You could also paint it as an iron golem, but it is a bones black material. So that's our plastic. It's a little bit higher quality. So yeah, this is not 3D printed. Reaper's actually going to offer these for sale once the Kickstarter is fulfilled, which I think we're close to, but I'm not sure. I just noticed I have mold lines. I need to fix those. But nope. This is none of the stuff on this show is 3D printed, Zigra, because this is Reaper Miniatures' own channel. So when I do models on this show, I'm doing Reaper figures that are either for sale or will be for sale. On my own stream, I do work on 3D printed figures like the Knoll here. Knoll bust. She's a 3D print. Among other things. I do also like just resin from other companies. And I mix it up and do bigger stuff usually on my own stream, which is on Thursday. And that's twitch.tv/paintingbig. But otherwise, my show, I do this show every morning for Reaper. Because I'm a Reaper employee and have been for 18 years. But yeah, so yeah, this stuff on this show is all, you don't need to print it. You can buy it. Alright, I think that's good enough for now. Alright, so let's get back to this hot effect we've got going on. I'm liking how this, how the Magma Red is coming in here with some orangey hints. Yeah, the Reaper Kaiju is, yeah, we do a Kaiju kind of model. We do a monster, Godzilla type thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool stuff, Zegra. We do have some big dragons and stuff. Reaper mostly does fantasy. We do have kind of, what you'd call a Tarrasque or a Godzilla or whatever, you know, gigantic monster that eats things model called Kanjira. And a lot of people assumed that was a kaiju when it came out, but, I mean, you could certainly use it as one, but I believe our original intent was that it would be a D&D figure called a Tarrasque, which is pretty much a kaiju as far as what it does. But yeah, it's nice to meet you. Welcome to the stream. This is mostly a painting stream, so if you have questions about painting, feel free to ask. Although I do use water-based paints and not solvent-based paints, so I'm not very good on the solvent side. I tend to like non-toxic paints, so I went away from solvents a long time ago. I used to oil paint and use enamels and stuff, but I far prefer water-based these days. Shavinra is a cool dragon. Tiago, I think I have a friend who looked into it for their own miniatures company, and what I got out of that conversation was that oils are a real pain to try to put out as a company. I don't think that Reaper ever would. I think you're far more likely to see an airbrush line out of Reaper before you see an oil line. At this point in this hobby, it's funny because oils used to be integral to figure painting. Before acrylics got up to a decent quality level. And a lot of the historical guys that historical painters that I hung out with at like Chicago Show and Tulsa and all that, they still use oil paints for skin on like busts and things. They used to use oil paint for everything. But it's not practical as much for like miniature painting. It's hard to get the fine detail that you can get with acrylics with oils. You can do it, but just a lot harder. It's so much easier to get fine detail with acrylic. And also it's easier to transport. So many of us in this hobby like to haul our miniatures over to friends' houses or to paint club or to conventions. And it's really hard to do that with oils. I mean, when I first started going to the historical shows, they didn't really have like classes. Like their classes were more like PowerPoint presentations. And when I asked why, it was because, well, he works in oils and you can't really teach oils in 2 hours, right? You can't, like, it's just, all your paint's going to be wet. You won't be able to really do a range of techniques or anything. But once they started adopting more acrylics, they started having more hands-on classes at their conventions because they could. Because acrylics dry right away, and you can learn all sorts of techniques in one class. So I think it's very... Right. I did a lot of oils in college. I went to art school, Tiago, and I used to love oils more than any other medium. I even did oil paint, like paint by numbers when I was a little kid. But then I decided I never wanted to see turpentine again. I never wanted to deal with mineral spirits ever again. And so I got some water-soluble oils. But even then, it's the fineness of detail and the drying time that really drive me away from oil painting and miniatures. I keep thinking about trying it. I have a bust picked out that I want to do in oils. I just haven't made the time for it. One of these days I'll do it, and then I'll have like some real opinions on oils and miniatures. There's a painter named James Wapple out there who teaches at our conventions every once in a while. James is an art whiz. He was a traditional painter for a long time, and he brought his oils knowledge to the miniatures field. So he does a lot of miniatures in oils. He's really the only painter I know of who does miniatures that like really excels at oils, though. I think I could say that. There we go. Just making a little bit more orange and brushing a little bit more orange over the midline here to blend in the red and the orange there. I am liking how this is looking. I do feel like this needs to go a little darker at the top. If I'm going for a heat source that's like couched in here, I need to make it fade out a little bit more at the top here and keep it more white toward the middle. You always want the light to be brightest where the heat is focusing. So if we're saying the heat is focusing in here, then we definitely need it to go a little darker where it gets farther away. Kind of to fit with how I did it up here too. Although I do feel like I need just a little bit of yellow up there. But yeah, so I doubt Reaper will do an oil line. There are other lines that I know Ed wants. Like I said, the airbrush line, and he's mentioned having a historical line for a while. I don't know if that will go or when, but there are things that I think would be in the queue before oils, especially with how hard it is apparently to are you going to put it in a tube, or are you going to try to put it in something like AK did with their oil brushers? You know, sourcing those materials and finding a way to fill those containers that doesn't require you buying tens of thousands of dollars worth of machinery. There are definitely, Reaper is run by accountants, and there are practical considerations. The other thing is that oil paints right now are very niche as far as usage in the miniatures market. So how much money really is in that market? You know, those are the questions that Reaper's going to ask, and that's what's kept them in business. Like, that's why they're a great company to work for, and they are always very conscious of the bottom line and how, they want to keep making miniatures for people. Like, that's their main thing. Paint is really kind of sideline to that they have an awesome paint line, if I dare say so myself, since I made it. But it's not as important to them as putting out bunches of really awesome miniatures at a decent price point. So for all those reasons, I think probably an oil line is honestly more trouble than it's worth, if you had to ask me. But I'm also somebody who still likes to use tube paint for miniature painting. So for me, I would just be like, well, why not just grab your oils, your regular oil paints, and just use them? No, Iffy, it's just different colors that are based around actual uniform colors and armor colors. So you could use them for anything, but you'd get like French blue, which is a blue-gray. It's a particular blue-gray. But you could use it for anything that you would use any other blue-gray for. So it's like, for people who paint fantasy, it would just be an option for more colors. For those of our fans who actually do paint historicals, they would finally have, an MSP French blue to paint their French guys with. Again, that's just something that's been bandied around, and who knows if it would ever come to anything. I have not been, remember that always, whenever I say something on stream, I have not been on the ground at Reaper for over a year and a half. And so much changes. So never take anything I say as being even close to what may be the current reality, unless I'm directly speaking of something that has just been released or will be released, and Quindy and John and Justin back me up. Because, John and Justin know a heck of a lot more about what's going on or not going on than I do. Alright, so we've got some nice kind of hot look here now. I like it. And I've got to put my reddish color over here in the dark side. And then we can go and make that glow extend down here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make this glow feel a little realer by making it extend onto areas that it would touch. For instance, this metal area here, this rim all around it, that would also pick up some glow, right? And when we're down here, the areas around there might pick up some glow. And so we'll be doing that as well. You can make a thing look like it's glowing from within, but it won't really look like it's glowing until you have it affect the areas around it that would catch the light. Now, there isn't too much on this golem that would. The edges around the area are really the only thing. Everything else falls back and away. We might get a little light. We're going to do a glow up here, too, coming out of his these little grooves. But we're not quite there yet. I didn't actually underpaint in black. I did underpaint in black, red, bloody lemming. It's just really dark. And it's actually walnut brown, but the reason I call it a black red is that it's created with red oxide pigment. So it actually is a black red, but it's using an earth pigment. I believe in using a really dark kind of charcoaly brown. So, but most of the brown that I think is suitable for this is made with a red pigment with a black pigment. So, on camera, it may look like it's black, but it's actually not. It's just really dark. I like really, really, really dark. My reality. Yeah, my reality is pretty awesome lately. I can't blame you, really. At least I believe my reality is pretty awesome. And that's half the battle right there. Who taught you that? I don't know if I agree with that, Bloody Lemming. I mean, I'm layering. So, I'm going over, when I'm talking about a red pigment, I can actually show you what I mean. Because the problem is, if you're using coal black pigment, here we go. Let me show you the color I'm using. So there it is. Okay, so this oxide red plus black is most of the component that goes in a walnut brown. So when I say that walnut brown is actually a black red, that's what I mean. If I was using a red, a different red, like a clear red, like a bright cherry red, and I mixed it with our particular black pigment, it would actually go purple. Yeah, I actually did make the paint line, so I can't tell you exactly the precise pigments and ratios that are in the paint because those are proprietary to Reaper, but I've never had a problem doing hot things with a charcoal brown. I haven't found that it turns it muddy, especially if you're using underpainting. If I want it to go really, really bright red out here, yeah, then I'd have to underpaint more white, but I don't actually want that. I'm trying to minimize my red, at least here. Mostly because we agreed we were going to go with more of an orange, green, purple color scheme. This is green, right here. But the background for this was actually this color. So anywhere I'm doing heat, I decided to go with my walnut. And then around it, it's going to go bronze. So, like, I want kind of hot areas that are showing through in this other metal. And then I want bronze on the green areas. Mostly I just painted them green because I wanted to remind myself that I was going to go bronze. So we just put down a green base coat before we put down any metallics. I just wanted to establish the hot areas. So yeah, it can be confusing. This is what I call the green horse phase on this model, where you really don't see where I'm going at all because I haven't laid down any metallics. I haven't done like a huge base coat. Mostly I'm just seeing if my heat effect is going to work. No, I mean, it sounds to me like you've just been taught different, Lemming. Like, I really don't find that the brown muddies colors as long as I lay down the white first, which is why I've been doing the underpainting with the white. But everybody's got their own experience with mini painting, so. I do have a lot of experience with it. I will tell you I have been painting miniatures for about 40 years now. If you count my kid phase. If you don't count the kid phase, I've been professionally painting miniatures for over 25 years. And I am an international award-winning painter. But that doesn't mean that I'm right. That just means that I have a certain view toward painting. I always tell people on this stream that nothing's right, nothing's wrong. The only thing that matters is what works for you. And that if anybody tries to tell you you're doing something wrong in mini painting, you should really give them a good hard look, because I don't find that that's true. Oh, and these brown bands in here, these dark bands, are actually not recessed. I wish they were. It would actually make things easier. But they're actually over the top of this heated area, so I'm going to have to do them as, like, they're kind of coming off right now as kind of charred bands. And I want to keep that effect, but I haven't figured out how I want to make them more than just stripes of dark right now. Often on the show, I'll start with a concept and then we'll kind of muck our way through it and we'll see if it works or not. And if it doesn't work, then I figure it's just as instructive for everybody watching than if it does work. I'm not afraid to make mistakes on camera. I think you've gotta be that way if you're gonna do this kind of like Twitch. Yeah. I mean, you could add a tiny bit of black to it, or actually, I think it's a better thing to add a tiny bit of green to it, Tiago. I really like adding a little bit of green to red. Tiny bit. Usually of a darker green. But it depends what way you're trying to desaturate. Adding the complementary color to a color to desaturate it tends to give you a slightly more pleasant... tends to let you keep a little more saturation in your original color. And it's neutral. It's not going to shift the red toward purple or toward salmon or toward whatever. Mixing green will just deepen it a little bit. Yeah, they're going to be brighter and the ridge is darker. They're going to be hot. Anything that I painted in the dark, I was thinking about making hot. Whether we keep it that way, I don't know. I figure he's probably got, like, motors and stuff in here to, like, you know, it looks like these are, like, vent fans. I don't know. Mostly I'm just screwing around. But what I really wanted, Valendar, was that I wanted to repeat these orange colors a little bit. And by creating, like motors or things that are in here that are powered, I can heat up these areas and carry that color down. So for me, more about color, less about function. I may take back the knees anyway. I'm, like, not sold on the knees. So, mostly I looked at them and went, well, that's a weird little nodule. What's that for? I guess I'll paint it dark right now. Never think that I know more than I do. Often I am just, like, going and discovering the model as I go. This is my weird way of painting. I have found that it works for me. I just have to re-white a little bit here, guys. We blocked in the ram head and we didn't necessarily go all the way with the white. So I want to get that in there and then we'll start getting that going. No, I would use a medium or dark green. I tend to use darker greens, like, at the very least, brilliant green. You see how that's a medium dark green? But even darker works too, Tiago. It's just that if you're using a darker green, remember it has black in it also. That will affect everything. Hello, musical. High skill musical. I missed your first post. Why is there no primer on the parts? Oh, okay. Yeah. I mentioned that a little earlier, but you weren't here yet. I just wash them. I don't find it necessary to prime bones. There are many people who disagree with me. So do your own research and find your own way. But for me, I have great success with just washing the bones in really hot water with a bit of dish soap, rinsing them well, and then letting them dry overnight on a paper towel or a regular dish towel. Oh, that went a little messy. Messiness does occur. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, no problem. We are, since this is Reaper's channel, I pretty much paint. I paint some metal. And every once in a while I'll have a resin copy of something from Reaper, like a resin master. But a lot of what I paint on here is bones. And now that I've got my my Kickstarter 5, the Bones 5 Kickstarter stuff, we're going to be bringing in a lot of the stuff from the Greek Odyssey set, because I really like it. And this is the first of those. Just going to bring in kind of a mix of the walnut and the white. Kind of fade it out a little bit and see if I like that. Kind of like that. I have no idea yet, crows. It is probable that I will not, except to make them a bit shinier and less verdigreed. Because I'm not using, like... I mean, maybe? But that wasn't really in the original idea. I don't like... if I would have been wanting to do battle damage, I'll tell you I would have used Bones Metallics instead of picking Core. Like, because I picked Core Metallics, there are things that I feel like they're better at, and things I feel the Bones stuff is better at. And for battle damage, I kind of feel the Bones Metallics are better to do that. Also, I think that it'd be hard to, like, do a lot of, like, I mean, I could do some scrapes and stuff, but I'm not sure what you mean by battle damage, I guess. Oh, good. Glad to hear that, Mineral. I really like this guy, too. I think it's really neat. Ah, uh-oh, my orange has thickened. Oh, no, the plot thickens. And so does my orange. Because time is passing. Oh, wow, we're already at past 10:30. I need to get a quick stretch break in, guys. Let's actually halt that right there. You can see how strong my orange went on there, though, and that's definitely my paint is... I have not added water to my orange, so it is thickened just a little bit. Normally, I like the well palette here for this sort of thing, because it stays good for a good long time, though. It did stay the same, the consistency I needed for about an hour, which is pretty good. Pretty good. All right, let's get this guy in focus so you guys have something to look at while I do a quick stretch break. Maybe. The problem is that a lot of it would be on the underside and not really visible. Maybe some little, like, scratches? Wasn't in my original concept, but we could do something. Yeah, I don't know, crows. Yeah, we'll see when we get there. Like, if I feel like it'll show and it'll look good. But originally I was thinking I would go, like, I would definitely put some verdigris and stuff on him, so the fists would be, like, just more metal because they'd be more polished and shiny from him smashing stuff. Well, his fingers are back there, behind the gauntlet, right? They're probably also metal. I mean, I think most of him is metal. I used the purple for the kind of the flesh there, and I'm not set on that. I really haven't decided how I'm going to work with those. It really depends on if I decide he's all bronze and he's been animated, or if I decide there are parts of him that are something else. Stretch break. If you feel like it, get up and stretch. It's been an hour since we started. A little over an hour. Those must be magical arrows, Rex. If they're penetrating magical bronze. Yeah, I just want to do something with that chest, and when I read that fluff about, like, steam boilers, I was like, oh, that could be fun. Doing kind of a, like, the metal is hot back there. So that's why I decided to do this. Especially because people said they wanted to do green, orange, purple, so I knew the green was going to be verdigris. And the orange could be the heat effect then, and purple could be various decorative effects. And again, I haven't quite sold myself on the purple yet, so I'm not sure where or how or what, or how it's going to show up. All right, I'm going to do one floor stretch, and then I'll be back, and we'll resume, everybody. There we go. Excellent. Whee. Huh. Yeah, I don't want to convert. I typically, you guys know that usually I don't convert the models just because, again, this is Reaper Stream and I want it to look as close as it, you know, as close to out of the box as it can get. There are definitely things that, like, I would do more on my own stream. And there's definitely, like, kind of a, like, a set area that I stay in with the pro tip stream. That's why we've got kind of, like, a separate, like, terrain stream. And I don't know if we've got a conversion stream yet. Quindy, Justin, that's a good idea. We should go into those. Ooh, I forgot to add some heat in here. We'll see how this ram's head ends up working, if I like it. Yeah, because, I mean, Bones is so very convertible, right, Quindy? So I'm kind of surprised that we don't have a conversion stream. Like how to make your regular paladin into a dragonborn by adding, you know, swapping up this lizard man's head, you know, that kind of thing. It would seem like something cool. Just random, yeah, random thought. Hey, Daffodware, how's it going? It's a good day. It's a good Monday today. Trying to figure out if this heat effect is going to work or if I've put in all this effort for naught. Which, you know, could happen. Yeah, we'll see. I want to make sure this guy does have a lot of big bronzy areas, obviously, being a bronze golem. So once I get some of that stuff mapped in and we get it detailed, then I'll see, because I kind of wanted the ram's heads to be big and bronze, like really, really have some cool shiny bronze areas. I'm thinking that this transparent, this heated up plate here is more of like a steel and the outside is a magical bronze, which seems counterintuitive. Maybe not though. I guess the core might be steel and then the bronze around it, but if you were thinking of it as a, like more of a steamjack kind of thing and less of as a traditional golem D&D, which would just use a bronze statue. So I guess it's all in your concept and what your fantasy world allows. But I really like bronze as a metal, so I feel like I don't want to make his hands into steel. Or you guys totally could do that to your own, though. Let's see. Yeah, I do want that shadow. All right. Yeah, I don't know if the ram head's going to work. We'll see. Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, sometimes it's just, that whoever it is isn't really inspired to do that, you know? Like, most of the time, I'm not really inspired to do conversions. I just want to paint a model. So, but if you got somebody into a stream here who loved to convert, then that would be something that you'd likely see more of, right? Unless I've got a really good idea for converting. Let's see, let's try that again. 1 second. There we go. Bringing back my white to see wherever I want an accent, like where these lines, these heat lines are meeting. I want that to be bright on his forehead. Yeah, I never, you know, Rax, I am never satisfied with those results. Like, and part of that, you know, maybe if I messed more with that stuff, I'd be able to come up with something that I did like. But I have never liked the look of the cotton ball stuff. And it's just me. Like, I'm persnickety about my special effects. Like, if I want to do something, I really want to work hard on figuring out a way to do it that's as close to real as I can get. And so I'm not as likely, I don't know, I just never liked the cotton ball or the steel wool. It just never really seemed right to me. I haven't seen it done in an amazingly good way. Like, it's just really hard to like get the gaseous effects, right? Because you're always using solids, so it's very, very difficult. It's like trying to sculpt a good tree. Oh yeah. See, now Rax, you need to be like doing it. Do you stream, Rax? I don't know if I ever heard that. Because if you do stream, then you need to be doing this sort of thing. If you're passionate about it and you know how to do it. Ah, yeah. Yeah, not my specialty. Like, the thing that gives me pleasure in the hobby is seeing a miniature, getting all excited about it, and putting the best damn paint job on it that I can do. Like, whatever my vision is in my head. That's what I get happy about. Special effects and stuff are rare. Like, it's rare that I look at a mini and go, I really want to, you know, do this or that. I want to introduce something other than miniature, right? Some people like go to that right away. They're like super into conversion and they love it. It's really, they adore it. They can't imagine painting a model that's stock, right? Whereas I love stock models. Oh no, it's not freehand. This is actually detailed. Just like he has ram's heads on his hands, he has a ram on his like center belt buckle. I guess it's a belt buckle. We'll call it the center of his abdomen, I guess. It's a cool design. I think this the artwork for this, the concept art for this one was done by Izzy, our concept artist, Mineral, and she's amazing. She does fantastic concept work. So I'm just bringing back in some of that white close to the head. Wasn't Izzy? Well, it's a very good design. I am enjoying it. There we go. It's a little bit better. That's more gluey. All right, more red around the outside. You're all about it, Mineral. That's funny. Yeah, it's all cool, Rax. Like, you guys can throw out suggestions all you want. Just don't get sad if I don't do them. When you guys throw out something that I really like, you know I totally grab it and run with it. But following, I think I've spoken about this before, following other people's ideas when you're not excited about them tends to make me want to stop painting a model. So I rediscovered that recently and kind of made a little resolution to go with my own vision on stuff. The thing is that I love to compromise. Like, I am that person who will always consider what you're saying. Like, honestly consider it. And I love to make people happy. But that can work against me sometimes. Because it's also, you know, it's your own creativity. And you got to do what makes you happy. Getting this Magma Red in all around the outside of this. Just thin down. Like I said, it's a pretty transparent color. I don't want to go too red though. A lot of glowing metal stays firmly in the orangey tones. So I'll be working in there with my sunrise orange as well to warm that up. Hello, Winter Warrior. Nice to meet you. Thank you. We're working on it. We haven't even thrown... I feel kind of silly having not even thrown the metallics on yet. Like, I really thought that I would get to them today, but I forgot that doing all these glazes of thin paint would take up a fair bit of time. But this has let me work out, like, what I'm doing. And decide if I liked it, if I was going to keep doing it. I think we are going to kind of sit on this, and I'll start working on metal, and we'll see. My point of doubt for this model, since we started doing this effect, has been, will it work next to metallics? Normally, it would fight with metallics, because it's a faux heat effect, and metallics are real metallics, true metallics. So, if I was doing this, it would work better with NMM. But we wanted to do this one in metallics, so we're going to go for it and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, we may end up repainting it. We may end up totally wiping it out. But I'm not afraid of doing that. Like, sometimes when you're not sure on a model, you just have to go for it. And if you end up losing your work because you decide down the road that it's not a good tactic, then so be it. But you can't let yourself freeze because you're not sure what to do. You gotta just do something. Any step you take is closer to, like, getting it done. Yeah, I know Bloody Lemming, but it said all of the torso. Yes, I would have to make this completely light like I did that if I was going to tie those concepts together. Bloody Lemming does raise a good point. If we have only one heat source, one little heat source in here, then we would need to white out all of this so that these areas would all come together in the light. But because I have the ram's head glowing, it suggests there's a separate source here. Which is okay if I'm going to make heat also out here. And up here. Alrighty. That's kind of what I was thinking. Because of this. Because if I am going to bring heat up here too, because what I was thinking of is this is essentially making a glow coming out from here. I didn't want to necessarily make the eyes glow though, because they're really recessed and that's just not going to work. I'm not sure I want it there either. So we'll see. Face is still, I'm out. Jury's out on face. The problem is the recess. Talked to you guys about this with glow effects before, is if you have a very overhung, deep set area and you can paint all day trying to get a glow effect in there, it's not going to work. Yeah, I'm not sold on the head right now. I may have to make it all bronze. Because it would make sense to me that if there was heat coming out the sides here, there's probably heat coming out here, and I don't want to do that, so maybe I won't do that. It's all consistency. All right, let's see here. Let's get some bronze. What will I use? This is the question. What do we start with? I think we're going to have to start light. We could start dark and highlight, but I'm not feeling that right now. So I'm going to grab my ancient bronze, which is our reddish bronze. And I think I'm going to mix just a little bit of new gold, which is very much like a gold metal medium, into that to bring it up just a tad. And then I think I'm going to add a drop of, yeah, we're mixing metallics, guys. This is, ooh, look at this, what the promised, right? I'm actually mixing metallics as if they were regular paint. I'm going to add a drop of pearl white in it to see if I can wash it out, desaturate it just a little bit, as bronze tends to be. It's not as vibrantly colored as a lot of other metals, unless it has, like if it has a slight patina on it, then it can get that rich yellow-ish color. I think I need more. Oh, that's actually not bad. I think I need more gold though. Here. This is the color that I've got right now, but I think I want just a little more yellow. There. Let's see how that does. This is our test color, and if it works, then I'm going to write it down. Right now it's 2 drops of new gold, and 3 drops of ancient bronze, and 1 drop of pearl white. I like that color. Yeah, it can lava. Not as, I mean, brass and bronze are pretty much both copper alloys, and they both display that propensity. I'm gonna pop this, actually I'm gonna grab a different brush. I'm gonna grab my cheapo crappy brush. Come here, cheapo crappy brush. And I want to see how this color looks. Now this color is kind of desaturated, which may not play well with our saturated heat effect. Thinking I'm just going to go in and paint this purple part like a totally different color. It's kind of annoying me, but not right now. Right now it's just a reminder. Keep telling myself that. It's very bright. And I want it to be bright because I want to be able to put washes of other color over it. And glazes. I could just leave the green in the middle, but meh. We're getting close to end of stream, so I want to at least block in some of this for next time. But this little center section here, guys, is really our proof of concept for the whole model. If we can get to a point where we're happy with how things are looking with this section, then we're pretty much good to go. We know what we're going to do for other sections. But until I have that, I really don't want to throw paint over this whole model and then have to repaint it when I decide it's not working. I do like this color as a bronze color. Dread Skull, it's like, it really varies. Metallic does glog up detail faster than thinned regular acrylics, or even thick regular acrylics. Primer and metallics fill in areas the fastest, in general. And then other paint, you can apply a lot. And it depends, though, on if you're applying thick layers or if you're thinning. When I'm layering and building up color, like, I could probably put 20 or 30 layers on easily and not even notice if I'm thinning it a lot. If I was using, like, a thick base coat each time, like, if I painted over this area, like, 5 times because I didn't like it, so I was using a thick base coat, and then I was building up other colors, and, you know, oh, I don't like it, another thick base coat, and building up colors, I could probably do it about 5 times before I start to lose any fine detail, but there isn't a lot of fine detail here. I did that once. I did repaint a model's hair 5 times with base coat, shadows, highlights, everything before I finally hit the color I wanted. And only on that final go, the 5th iteration, did I notice that I was starting to lose a little bit of the fine detail between the strands. And this was a Werner clock model, so the hair was actually sculpted with a lot of fine strands. So you have a lot more coats than you think if you're using a lot of thinned paint. If you're using a lot of thicker paint, then you don't have nearly as many coats. But, I mean, I'm thinning my paint at least 2 to 1 paint to water, so I have very thin paint, and I can build up a lot of it before I end up losing detail. That's why I don't strip models. I just tend to paint over them. I feel like this is a desaturated color because I added, the bronzy color is desaturated because I added in white metallic. So it's not as vibrant as it could be. It's pale. It's a little washed out. Doesn't have as strong of a yellow tone. I kind of do like the color, though. Any color can be desaturated. There's pigments and flakes that are... There's flakes that are coated with a color, and pigments in metallics. So... you can get a very, you know, saturated... If you have a lot of pigment and a lot of, you know, flake that's a really vibrant color... Perhaps more proper, if I was using proper art terms, I would say chroma. This is a lower chroma color. So now I wonder... tint is adding white, I believe. Yeah. So. But we don't usually use, like, art speak. Like, I know the art speak, but I don't usually use it, because then I have to stop and explain terms that people almost never hear in miniatures art. Which is fine if that was my movement. Like, if that was what I wanted to do with miniatures art, was, like, to get more of the fine art into it. But I went to art school, and I did art BS for, you know, years. I just don't really. Oh, dear. But, oh, where was I? Yeah, chroma is probably a better way to put it, as far as intensity. Yeah, bestiary, sometimes when you buy plastic models, people have used like solvent-based paint on them, like enamels or really heavy coats of like spray-on primer or paint. And that can be a beast. That can be an absolute beast. But yeah, I do like this color for a bronze. Kind of a weathered bronze. Slightly coppery. Yeah, Aaron's using the real terms, quote unquote. I don't know. Like, even when I was in art school, I had trouble remembering all that stuff. So I look at the people that I'm teaching now, and a lot of them have no art background. So I end up questioning whether it's useful to use those terms or just to say add white. Especially with how the crappy brush shows its true color. Look at that, guys. Crappy brush. Yeah. Shows its... Spits in my eye and says, oh, you want me to hold a point? No, thank you. I am a cheap sable. I do not hold points. But yeah, especially when the hobby tends to like all these people making up all these terms all the time. Which I guess is the point, like having a common lingo to like explain a concept. But part of me that always questioned the art BS in school is just like, yeah, but add white is also a perfectly good way of telling what you're doing. So yeah, again, your mileage may vary. It's good that Aaron is teaching the real art terms. I mean, somebody should. And it does allow us to have that discussion. Some little rebel part of me, though, is always looking at that going, What was that? Oxide Paints. Yeah, I do have that on my Kickstarter, Inara. They're clear brights. Or on my Kickstarter. I have it on my Patreon. I just did a $5 PDF about that. But the short answer is they're clear brights. They're just clear brights with earth pigments. So use them in the same way you would use a clear. Which is to say for mixing, primarily for mixing, although they are perfectly good colors in their own right. Just like with the clears. Yeah, this bronze color is growing on me. I use them as colors in their own right, but they also make great mixes. And if you are on my Patreon, which I know a lot of you guys are, at patreon.com/paintingbig, the $5 PDF I just did this month talks even more about those colors. But the short answer is clear brights like clear red, clear yellow, clear blue, single pigment colors work really well to shift other colors through glazes and for mixing. At some point, if we get back to some more naturalistic subjects, we can use some oxides. And maybe, you know, if this was iron, we could use it for rust, obviously, but... Well, but it did kind of, though. Cursed, right? Because I had a more vibrant kind of reddish gold, and then dropping a drop of this in is kind of giving it that washed out color. It's a little bit paler. I think it definitely did knock back the intensity. So, I don't know. Metallics are a slightly different beast, and yet at the same time, they are very like just regular paint. Only with that underlying flake factor that is always going to shift and modify what you can create with them. I do like this color. I'm gonna write it down. If I was looking for new metallics to make. Although this would be a pain in the butt to actually make as a standard mix, I'll tell you that. Because whenever you're not sticking to one flake, it gets horrendously complicated. Really annoying to mix. Kinda. It's not quite a shiny penny. It's a little more yellow war shadow. It looks a little orangey, orangier on the monitor, I'm afraid. At least on mine. But also keep in mind, this is only our base coat. We have yet to change it by adding shadows and highlights. And with a color like this, that's kind of on the rails, where it could go more yellow, it could go more red, it could go, you know, more coppery. Remember also that bronze is a copper alloy, I mentioned earlier. So it does have stuff in common. More and more museums are just not even differentiating between brass and bronze anymore, because both of them are copper alloys, and the differences were kind of splitting hairs before, and sometimes there's things that are even between what they would normally have defined brass and bronze, so they're just calling it copper alloy now. I noticed that when we were in the De Young, when we went into San Francisco a while ago, that a lot of the artifacts were just copper alloy. A couple still had cards that said bronze or brass, but there were also those that just said copper alloy. But anyway, I think this is the color I want. We will, and I think if we shift it, if we decide it needs to be more yellow or it needs to be more red or dark green, we'll be doing that as we go. I like this though so far. I do feel like our glow effect's going to end up being wasted, and it's going to fight directly with the metal, and it's not going to work. That's what I'm pretty sure we're headed for, which is why I decided that now is the time to get this layer of metallics on. But it is past time to end the show, actually. So let's zoom in, at least get in focus, and talk about what we did today. We talked about a lot of stuff today. Yeah, wrestling belt. I totally agree. So today, we kind of blocked in colors into our heat effect to see if it would work and if we liked it. We talked a little bit about whether or not we're going to do it up on the head as well, and I was veering away from that. The jury is still out on the extremities. Talked a little bit about how we would do different heat effects, thanks to our new friend in the chat, who I'm totally like forgetting now, Bloody Lemming. So like if you wanted just one light source, you would totally have to make this part all lighter so that it hooked up with that instead of having separate light sources. We also started mixing, talked a little bit about mixing metallics, touched very briefly on the oxides thanks to Inara's question, and talked about why I think this actually isn't going to work. I think it's not going to work. I think our faux heat effect is not going to work with our actual metallic effect. Which is what I had feared at the beginning, but I wanted to try it anyway, so we'll see. We'll keep going, though, just to see if we like it or how it ends up going. And, you know, tomorrow we are working on this guy. Since we switch off every day and we have a 6-model rotation, we are back to Crimson Herald dude tomorrow. Probably working more on getting his tentacles that we only blocked in last time. I want to kind of bleach these out a little bit. I want to add some patterns and stuff to them and get them going. So that is what we will do tomorrow, and that will be this dude, Crimson Herald. In our little color, our cheat sheet for Crimson Herald. All right, guys, thanks for coming in. I hope you had fun today. I hope you all have a lovely Monday. Start of a great week, I think. And hey, we're almost to August. Where's the summer gone? Yeah, that's right. And Rhonda has her show Beyond the Kit at 2 p.m. USA Central Time, so be sure to come back for that. Thanks, everybody. And like I said, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow morning.